Hi there, it's Archie. I'm at the ADHD International Conference over in Baltimore in the US. Pleased to say I've got a special guest joining me today. I've got Ian, who's one of the attendees at this conference. Nice to meet you, Ian.
Hey, it's great to meet you, Archie.
Good to see you. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. In terms of ADHD, I was diagnosed 20 years ago. I've been doing different types of work to try to come to grips with it, but I think, in the last 5 years, the world has learned so much about ADHD, and there's just so much more awareness, especially after COVID, when everybody came out of the closet, that there's been a real boon, and I'm trying to get more involved. I also work for a federal agency in neurology. I'm not representing them today at this conference, but I hope to do so in the future. So I'm taking good notes, and I'm going to show my boss and explain to him why, the U.S. government needs to pay more attention in this area.
That's something that, similar to the UK, we find the government, particularly when it comes to things like ADHD, it's still quite patchy. It's not really being kind of like the support itself. There isn't. A lot of people are having to wait for long to get an assessment, for example. And then when they get an assessment, there's long waiting lists to get treatment, such as medication. Coaching therapy isn't readily available via the National Health Service. So is that the sort of similar situation in the US?
No, I think it's different in the US because we have a much more profit-driven health system. So we have a problem of, early childhood. There are a lot of people that were overdiagnosed and overmedicated, and that has given ADHD a stigma in the United States, I think, where a lot of people saw that and they know that there was a lot of overdiagnosis. So then when people start talking about having adult ADHD, their first impulse is they're just trying to sell more drugs, and it's not a real thing. That we're trying to get, people having more special privileges for themselves at work. It's not really a real thing. But as we learn and as we talk to each other, we're finding that, we do think differently. And it's fascinating right now, having lived with it so long and discovering that I am, in fact, not like everybody else. There's a group of people that we're very similar in a lot of things, but I never realized how dissimilar I am from other people, which we call neurotypical, or in a different part of the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. So when were you diagnosed with ADHD?
About 2002. I was diagnosed concurrently, first by my psychiatrist and then by a guy I worked with at a bookstore who, after having a 15-minute conversation with me, said, "You're ADHD, aren't you?"
Really? Even back then in 2002?
Well, he was diagnosed, and since he could have a 15-minute conversation with me, he assumed that because we bounced back and forth between topics together and didn't miss a beat, he's like, "Yeah, I don't know why nobody ever told you that you were ADHD." And it's really just because, I'm 56 years old. When I grew up, we didn't know what ADHD was.
Right. And just certainly, the recognition of adult ADHD in the UK, that's something that came later than obviously when it came to the US. So if we think back to 2002 when you got the diagnosis, were there a lot of adults being diagnosed at that same period, or?
It's hard to say because it's, mental health is not talked about. Calling it mental health or a mental illness has been a taboo subject. So it was hard to gauge how much, what a big impact it was. At that time, I didn't have a friend circle that had a lot of ADHD people in it, so I just really had no idea how far it went, or even how it was affecting me and how it was affecting my life. It's only in the past 5 or 6 years that I've really grown into learning, and I think probably the same thing happened in the UK, but in the US, being closed in with COVID put everybody in a very bad place, and people started opening up about mental health, and now it's more acceptable to talk about mental health. I also realize that I've been with my federal health job for 12 years now. I do have a privilege there that since I work in a neurology division, it's much easier for me to talk about it and not worry about getting fired because we are responsible for overseeing the parts of that for the nation.
Excellent, yeah. How are you finding the conference?
So far, it's been really great. I went to a session earlier this morning about methods for testing for ADHD. The speaker is developing his own type of method, and for a lot of the diagnostic tests are to determine whether or not you have the dysfunction.
Is that like an objective kind of test, or what is it?
We try to be as objective as possible. I can't get too much into this because then after a while it's going to be like, oh, I know what you do for a living.
Yeah, of course, I understand. Absolutely. I can see there's a lot of people now. There's a lot of presentations going on.
I think it's an incredible mix of people, and I think it's an incredible mix of topics. I've been going to medical conferences for work for 20 years now. I've never gone to a conference where there's been something happening in each session slot that I want to go to. It's more like, oh, that looks good, then I'll go get lunch and I'll come back and. But everything there's so much going on here. There is really so much of an explosion of information. I just wish that I could bring other people to cover be at two places at one time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wish they could record and you could play it back later on or at some stage.
Also, I have to say, last year was really good, but because of COVID, I did it virtually, and trying to attend a virtual conference on ADHD while you have ADHD is comedy that writes itself.
Yeah, I've been through a lot of webinars over the last years, actually, since COVID, and I think, yes, there is a part to play where some people can't travel and all of that. Similar to this conference, there is a virtual, I think, 3-day conference that they're doing online next week. So, but I like the fact that they still kept the face-to-face, in-person conference as well.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll definitely say, well, I joke about, attending a virtual conference while I have ADHD. It was amazing. I felt like, I paid for that out of pocket as I did for this, because it's been so good for my own understanding of myself that, I'm coming back. I'm hooked. Now I'm trying to hook my organization so I can put more, a little more resources and put it a little more into my work description to do more research in this area. And I hope to become more active in the community.
I know it's only day one, but what would you take away from from this today? What would you take back to your work, home, just your, day to day?
I think right now, because it's been technical sessions, it would be very technically oriented about different types of diagnostic tests, because that's the type of nerding out that we do at work. But I'm also looking forward to a lot of the coping mechanisms and a lot of the psychology side of it, which I don't get to as much in my own work.
As you can see on the agenda, that there's full of that. There's tomorrow's talks, and the day after is going to be packed, jam-packed. So good luck.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. Nice to talk to you, Ian.
Yeah, I hope to talk to you next year when I can announce where I'm working from once I get authorization.
I wish I could announce it myself. Yeah. Listeners, I do know, but I can't tell you.
All right, thanks.
Good to see you.
Thank
you. I'm just going to do a quick walk around and see who else we can chat to. Ooh. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
I'm Archie.
I'm Eleni.
Nice to meet you, Eleni. So do you want to introduce the organisation you work for?
Yes, absolutely. So I am with the ADHD Advocate, which is based in London and founded by Stephanie Camilleri. I met Stephanie when I was living in the UK.
Hang on, did you say it's based in the UK?
It is based in the UK.
I've never heard of it.
Yes. Oh, no, don't say that.
Honestly?
No, Stephanie is a coach in London, and she started her coaching practice a couple of years ago. And during COVID, when I was living in the UK, she was sort of facilitating a lot of networking, a lot of online events, and we connected, and her coaching practice has grown, and so much so that when I moved back to the States, I'm able to bring over much of what we're doing in the UK here to the United States.
That's pleasing to hear, because usually it's the other way around. A lot of things start in the US, and then they get, you take it back to the UK. Do you want to tell us a bit about what ADHD Academy?
Absolutely. So we sort of have two sister companies, the ADHD Advocate, where we offer more traditional coaching, workplace awareness, employer coaching, and our sister company is the ADHD Academy, where we support students, mostly college students and high school students, in preparation in the UK around their GCSEs and A-levels, but we've adapted that for high school students here in the United States.
Excellent. So, tell us a little bit more about the advocate side of things. So what support is available?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of that question.
Sorry, yeah. You mentioned about the ADHD Advocate.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a bit exactly what that involves?
Absolutely. So the ADHD Advocate offers individual coaching. We do group coaching for girls I think it's monthly. We have an online parent education course, which is really geared toward parents who maybe just receive a diagnosis for their child, want to know a bit more about it. And we offer parent support groups monthly as well. So that's under the ADHD Advocate umbrella, all of which has been adapted for the United States as well. ADHD Academy is new. I would say it's just been created in the last couple of months, really, because we kind of recognized that the students that we were supporting, their needs they're unique and kind of different to just maybe a traditional one-on-one coaching client. Students do better. Our group coaching is very effective for students because they don't feel like they're alone. They have that group accountability. It sort of almost normalizes the way that they're learning how to study and approach their work, which, as we know with ADHD, time blindness can be a huge thing. So it's either now or it's not now, and helping students manage that piece of ADHD is really wonderful.
What age group are we talking about here for the academy?
So from, I would say, 13 up until about 22, 23, finishing up at university. So from high school through to GCSEs, A-levels, or high school here in the United States, up until university. And we also work with students working on dissertations, so sort of postgraduate as well.
Is this support, is it accessed online?
Online, yes. So we have a lot of resources online. It includes online support with coaches.
Wow. Okay. Something that I'll definitely look into after this. I can see obviously Tina. I'm going to have a quick chat with Tina. I know Tina well. Is she part of the academy side of it, or the advocate?
I met Tina through our coaching at the ADHD, the advocate side of things. So we sort of both have clients through the ADHD Advocate. My work is more in the ADHD Academy. I'm not sure how Tina's work sort of overlaps with that.
Don't worry, I'll ask her.
You'll ask her, exactly.
How are you finding the conference anyway?
It's great. I mean, I feel like there's almost too much to get through in any given time. There's so many interesting workshops to listen to, but it's really great. Really.
And the networking as well, connecting with people from different parts of the world.
This is great. Absolutely. The chocolate helps. But
I'm going to preach something in a sec.
Indeed.
What are you looking forward to at the conference?
At the conference, I sort of seeing what other spaces, hearing about what people are doing in some of the spaces that we're in, sort of seeing how demand and interest in coaching has shifted, and just connecting with other coaches all around the country and the world.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely something I'm looking forward to as well, the connecting. Did you come to the conference last year?
I did not come last year, no.
Is this your first time you come to this conference? First time?
Yes.
It's my second time. I came last year.
Bravo. That's fantastic. And how are you finding it?
It's too early days. It's only day one. Well, you haven't even finished the first day, but already I'm looking at the agenda and I'm mesmerized with the speakers, the presentations, and the people that they've brought this year as well. There's a few faces from last year I could see, but certainly new people like you coming on board as well. And the in-person, because I've been to so many online virtual webinars, meetings and things over the last year. It's nice to connect with people on a kind of one-to-one in person.
Yes, and just to add to that, last month, actually, Stephanie, our founder, hosted and organized a summit, a UK Coaches Summit, with coaches that had been trained through ADDA, the ADD Coaching Academy, in England. And there are quite a few in the UK. And there's actually a QR code just to Stephanie's remarks and interview of David Gawork, who is the founder of the ADD Coaching Academy, and who speaks so beautifully about ADHD and coaching and the profession and the direction that we're headed. So I would encourage everybody to have a look at that. It's on our website. QR code is right here. They both speak really, really well about the space that we're in.
Do you want to give us your website details?
Absolutely. It's www.theadhdadvocate.com, and our ADHD Academy is www.theadhdacademy.co.uk. So slight difference there.
Slight difference there.
I'll get you the same place, though.
Are you planning to come to the UK at some point?
I lived in the UK for a couple of years. Right before COVID, we were living there, and we came back just at the end of last year, which is why I was not at the conference. So I became very familiar with all things in the UK, sort of school system needs, but bringing that back here has really been great.
Do you know, one thing, I'm looking outside, look how sunny it looks.
Isn't it beautiful? So Camden Yards is really just a great place. Next time you'll come, you have to come in the springtime to enjoy a baseball game here. It's absolutely beautiful.
Really?
Yes, well worth it.
Excellent.
And the aquarium.
The aquarium?
The National Aquarium is just down the block. It's really fantastic. That too is well worth a couple of hours.
Definitely. Do you know, I'm going to start filming this. I think our listeners, they're probably kind of like envious to see what we are seeing, but I've been outside.
Well, beautiful sunny skies, about 20 degrees warmer, I would say, than yesterday, so at least you can not freeze when you're walking around. But Baltimore is a great city, very pretty waterfront, so lots of sailboats, all of that. Well, they're not really sailing, they're just sort of parked. But at the moment, really, really beautiful landscape.
And I've heard about the seafood as well.
Yes, and I think if you just take a wander down to the left, Fells Point, Little Italy, really great neighborhoods to check out with some really great seafood restaurants as well.
That's what I did this morning. I didn't literally, I went on an open tour, of Baltimore.
And what did you think?
It was amazing. Like, I checked out all the places, like Little Italy, is it Feathers Hill?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you're not from here.
I'm not from here.
Okay, fair enough. But all of the places you were talking about there, I got to see. But thankfully, not thankfully, but I didn't have the time to literally go and explore. But having a little drive around downtown.
If you go the other way, I think you can go to Fort Henry. So I think that's also a park and a monument and some Civil War history there as well. So Baltimore is, I feel like it often gets overlooked being so close to Washington, but it's really a great city in its own right.
I was about just to say Washington there, exactly. It's not far, it's about half an hour drive.
Will you be able to head down to DC on that?
I might do that on the last day before I catch my flight, as long as I don't miss the flight.
Well, if you're flying out of Dulles, it's on the way, so just plan some time to hit the highlights in Washington.
Yeah, definitely. It's not far. You know, I've never done Washington before, so yeah, definitely one on my. I'll put that on my travel list.
Indeed.
Nice to talk to you, lady.
Well, it's very nice chatting with you. Thank you for your interest in the ADHD Advocate and the ADHD Academy.
Of course, absolutely. As I said, I never heard of them, so yeah, that's something I'm going to definitely take away with me.
Well, hopefully we'll change that.
I'll come back and grab some pears and chocolates and sweets I can see over there.
Please do, because otherwise Tina and I are going to eat them all.
Oh no, that won't be good, would it? Right, okay. I'm going to move on and talk to someone else. I don't even know who to talk to now.
Nice chatting with you.
Nice to talk to you too. Hey guys, it's Archie. I'm still at the ADHD International Conference. I'm just doing a walk around to see who else we can interview as part of the podcast. A lot of people are quite nervous when they see a camera, but let's see what we can do. Hi there, it's Archie. I'm back with a returning guest on the podcast. It's Tina Squire. Tina featured on one of our podcasts a while back, actually, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. ADHD in the workplace, which is what I'm talking about at CHAD on Tuesday in the online.
Amazing.
In the online conference. So
you're going to use whatever you said in the podcast to present.
It has developed massively since then, obviously. No, but it's a whole curated talk and more like there's workshop elements to it. So it's not a workshop, but it have workshop elements to it. So it's about really finding your strengths and how to utilize and leverage them in the workplace and advocate for yourself. So, and I've really tried to make it, because your listeners might hear, I'm from the UK, we're in the US, and I know the audience here is international. So I've really made it so that it's not dependent on anywhere you are or like any culture or what workplace you're in or what you do. So it works for anyone basically in the workplace.
So just to give us a flavour, obviously we're talking about workplace accommodations, disclosing the diagnosis to the employer, and from an employer's point of view, what they should be mindful of, certainly when they employ someone with neurodiverse needs.
Well, so the approach I've taken is, and the question I get a lot is, so should I tell my work I have ADHD? And I argue and will say that that's the wrong question. It's much more about the how and the why of what it is that you want them to know, and on the basis of that you figure out kind of what it is that you want to say, how you want to share it, and using your own strengths and modalities in order to share it. So it's it's all about kind of identifying your own strengths and then understanding what it is that makes you work best, and then look at, okay, so do I have to caveat that with I have ADHD, or do I want to? Because there are some environments at work as well which are very compliance-based. So it is, some environments you can't get accommodations unless you have something that basically warrants it. So it sort of covers all of that as well. So it's not a straightforward answer. You'd have to watch the speech, yeah.
Would there be a chance for people to watch back at all, that talk?
Yeah, you can watch it back. You can buy like the online version, I think, of the chat talks and watch it back. You can follow me as well, and there will be tidbits of it that I will share on the site as well. There's actually a download on my website, adaptina.com, which is kind of the workshop version of the talk that I'm doing as well. So if you can't make it to the talk, make it to my website, and there's plenty of materials there as well, and more UK work-based stuff as well with regards to access to work. And yeah.
And do you want to tell us a little bit about your work with the Academy, ADHD Academy?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
It is quite busy. It's fairly still, yeah, I know. It's. I was just asking, you're wearing a T-shirt saying the ADHD Academy, and we are standing at their stand. Yes. So, yeah, do you want to tell us a bit more about what you do within that organisation?
Yeah, so I work for a wonderful organisation called the ADHD Advocate, which has been around since 2017. And what's great about the ADHD Advocate is that and it's been going so long, is that we have a whole stable of coaches, which means that we can afford to have lots of specialized coaches. So where we've got coaches for young children, older children, for workplace, for menopause, for the queer community. So there's usually a specialist coach that will cover what you might want from coaching, really. And here today we're talking about the ADHD Academy, which is essentially trying to bridge the gap of what you're learning in school, and this is how to learn it, basically, especially for neurodiverse students, because that's the bit that's usually missing, especially when they go up at school as well. So that's what the program's about, is really learning how to learn, and that's what's so great about it as well.
How are you finding the conference?
I'm finding the conference really great, and I'm loving meeting so many people like yourself and everyone else. I definitely want to come again. It's very stimulating, it's very interesting. I mean, it's just really difficult to catch everything. That's the only thing. And remember to eat and drink enough water and that sort of thing. But yeah, no, it's absolutely great.
Now you understand what I was trying to convey last year when I came.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it now. I still want to come back though.
Exactly.
It's amazing. So.
It's the buzz. It's being surrounded by ADHDers, by everyone that works in ADHD. Yeah, some of them have ADHD themselves. The main discussion is, hi there, how are you? I think she wants to go onto the podcast. How are you finding the conference, by the way?
I just got here.
Oh, literally?
So I'm really excited to be here. I couldn't come last year because of all the COVID stuff, but I'm really excited to be here and excited to... I went to school with a lot of people, and we went all online, and international group going to have a big reunion. Well, not a reunion, a union for the first time, right? Because we've never actually met, only just did school together for months and months online.
Kamala, you also do a lot of great work with education and kids, right?
Yes, I do. I do actually. I work with kids, and I'm a school consultant for an ADHD school consultant, and I'm really trying to make sure that education starts at that base level where it's really needed, because we know that if we can get these kids to understand and embrace their ADHD and be supported at the school level, then we have less of the issues going forward.
So I didn't introduce you properly. I've just literally shoved a microphone in your face.
That's okay. I'm Kamala.
Nice to meet you, Kamala. I'm Archie. I do a podcast called the ADHD Care podcast.
Oh, I love it.
And we discuss all things ADHD, as you can tell.
Yes.
So what we're doing this year, we're just walking around, interviewing people and just finding out what they're looking forward to, how they're finding the conference, and pretty much showcasing all the things that people that are not able to attend to get a sense of what we are seeing and what everything going on here. So you're educational consultant by background.
I actually am a certified ADHD coach. I went through the same program as Tina did, and work with doing some consultancy, some advocacy, coaching, speaking, all of those kinds of things.
Really? Are you speaking at all at this conference?
Not. I actually decided to give myself a little break and just be an attendee this year. So.
Yeah, amazing, and that's the best way to do it. So the young people you work with, what's the age group, the kids?
So I can work with, I've worked with, I have one little guy who's 9, and I've worked with university students and high school students and elementary students, and so yeah, I'm just trying to educate. In my consultancy position, I go into the school and do a lot of speaker programs on professional development days and try to give the teachers the knowledge and the support that they need to support the kids at the school level, because sadly there isn't a lot of education that goes into around ADHD into becoming a teacher. And you see more and more ADHD kids in the classroom that are slipping through the cracks because of misunderstandings and that assumption that this is a behavior or something that they can control, when really it's not. It's it's an ability, right? And they don't have that ability unless they've been supported and taught how to reach down deep and figure out with supports how to overcome some of those, executive function deficits.
That's something I've spoken to a lot with on this podcast, just around training, teacher training.
Yes.
Why, given that the high number of young people that have neurodiverse needs like ADHD, autism, their training isn't really like covering those aspects, really?
Well, thankfully, there's an increase of autism training that's happening at the educational level for people who are training to be teachers, but it is sadly lacking still in what's going on for ADHD, especially around young girls, and the overlap of and the overlooking of how being diagnosed as a woman or as a young girl. I have a 15-year-old daughter who, as a result of the education I have, is having a very different experience in education than I did. Right? Because she definitely would have been overlooked and fallen through the cracks because she was inattentive and did a lot of masking and had really great grades, or she had B's when really her potential was A's, but no one would have been like, oh, well, you're getting B's, so what's the problem with that? But so we're trying really hard just to get that message out to the educational community, and I know that it's been received really well. Yeah.
Are you obviously just cover the US, do you?
No, I'm actually Canadian.
Are you Canadian? Oh.
I'm a Canadian.
Amazing! Wow, great. Okay, so you obviously just work in Canada then?
I work in Canada. Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have American clients as well, though.
So you travelled all the way from there? Oh, it's not all the way though, is it? It's not that far.
Alberta, Canada. Yes, from Edmonton. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I've got family that live over there.
In Edmonton?
No, in Toronto. So
Toronto.
Yeah.
Canada's bigger than just Toronto.
I know, exactly.
I don't think so. I don't think so, but it is. Really, honestly, there's other parts other than Toronto.
Which is what I saw when I've been there before when I went to visit, so yeah.
Yes, and Toronto's not even all that attractive. I mean, I live right near the Rocky Mountains, so...
Oh, wow, okay.
Right near Banff and Jasper, so...
Okay, excellent. So, lastly, do you want to tell us contact details if anyone wants to reach out to you?
Sure, you can reach me at www.rewriteadhd.com, and be happy to have a chat with you.
Excellent. So yeah, listeners, there you go. That was Kamala. Nice to meet you. Enjoy the conference.
Okay, thank you. Archie,
Okay.
nice to meet you.
It's Archie.
We should do the connecting thing.
Oh, yeah. We should.
Or the pen, like where's your phone, and then you hold the phones together.
How'd you do it?
I haven't done it yet. I don't know, I'd have to ask maybe Tina.
So I guess everyone's wondering, like, there's this technology thing that they've got an app that the organisers of the conference have, which allows people to just tap your phones and you can exchange details from that. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Do you want to say who you are?
Yes, I am Dr. Carolyn Lynch Parcells. I'm a board-certified pediatrician, and I practice in Texas. And I take care of a lot of kids and teenagers and young adults who have ADHD, but I also have ADHD and a learning disability myself. So, yeah, this is my jam. This is 3 of the most soul-affirming days you will ever attend as a human with ADHD.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's great.
So you're giving a talk as well. You're one of the speakers, aren't you?
Yes.
You want to tell us what talk it's all about?
Yeah, so I'm doing, at the live conference, I'm doing a talk called Management of Medications for the Treatment of ADHD. It's geared towards professionals, but also lay people. And then I'm doing a talk called What Everyone Needs to Know About ADHD Medications for the virtual conference as well. And I'm also one of the lucky members of the planning committee.
Are you? Did you come to the one in Dallas last year?
Dallas is my hometown. Dallas is why I ended up on the planning committee. So,
right. Oh, wow.
Were you there last year?
I was there and I was doing a podcast as well.
Party?
I was at the party.
That was me.
What? Right.
That was me. The one in the feather boa?
Yep.
John glasses, that was me.
That was you. Have you got footage of that? Did you record it?
A lot of other people did. I was busy dancing. We are doing that party again this year.
Yes, we are.
There will be more feather boas and Elton John glasses.
I was just gonna say, any more surprises to come?
I don't think so, actually. I think we kept it. It worked so well last year. It was like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We'll just do the same thing again.
I'm sure you were trending on social media after that performance.
I don't think I was, thank goodness.
I suppose within this ADHD community you were.
Though, yeah, maybe a little.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we talk about the other side of Caroline? The professional side of Caroline.
Sure.
Which is obviously why we're here. So, let's talk about personally first. You got ADHD. When were you diagnosed with ADHD yourself?
I was actually really lucky for someone my age, because I am Gen X. I was actually diagnosed when I was about 17, because we had a family member who had pretty severe symptoms and was diagnosed, and I'm very lucky that my parents took a look at that and went, oh, hold on a second. I think that's what's going on here. And that's also when I was diagnosed with a learning disability in reading and written expression.
Right.
So, yeah, I've been living with it for, well, obviously had it my whole life, but knowledge about it from a relatively speaking younger age, which I think is absolutely critical.
What's been your journey like, obviously living with it as a female with ADHD in the profession that you are in as well?
Yeah, so it's interesting because like I said, I was diagnosed relatively young, but because I was 17, and as many 17-year-olds thought I knew it all, I actually did not start medication, despite my parents encouraging me to do so. And so I went through all of med school, all of college, all of med school, all of residency, and into practice before I even tried medication myself, ironically. And it's been a challenge. I mean, honestly, it's, trying to stay on track, trying to get all the studying done. I had to work really, really, really hard. And not that I wouldn't have had to work hard otherwise, obviously, but I definitely had to work differently. And I think I had to work differently than I maybe would have had I taken advantage of all the resources available to me. And that is definitely something that has motivated me to try to help my patients understand themselves, how they work, what all of their treatment options are as soon as we get them diagnosed. Obviously, knowing that those things are going to change throughout their lifespan. But the other thing that's interesting for me, I think, is as a now adult woman, mother, business owner, physician, is understanding how ADHD does affect us through our lifespan. And the fact that our symptoms and how the disorder shows up in our lives and our functionality can really vary. I tell people all the time, I actually feel like my ADHD is more of a challenge for me now than it ever has been in my life.
And why is that?
Because it's not just about me anymore, right?
Yeah.
I have to organize myself, my kids, my business, and if something falls through the cracks, it doesn't just affect me.
Yes.
Right? So it affects my kids, it affects my home, it can affect my business, and that's stressful. The mental load, I think most of the parents, caretakers, no offense guys, but especially moms, will understand the mental load of kind of feeling like you've got everybody's everything on your shoulders is intense whether you have ADHD or not. But when you throw ADHD into the mix, the sense of shame, failure, all of those things that a lot of us with ADHD live with is magnified that much more because the cost is more, right? Yeah.
And what tips do you have for anyone in the same situation as you? What do you find helpful?
Ask for help. Period. And a lot of that, I think one of the things that's really difficult is, first of all, at least I know for me, it's hard for me to ask for help because I feel like I should be able to do all of it myself. So that's one of the things that it can be really hard for us to get over. But then there's what kind of help and who do you ask, right? And there is mental health help, there is coaching help, there is medical help, but then there's also personal assistant or your friend who's really good at organizing stuff, right? You can trade, let them organize your closet and you make them dinner, things like that. But there's putting your village together, whether that's professionals or friends or just the people in your life who support you. We were never intended to do it by ourselves with or without ADHD. We really shouldn't be trying to do it by ourselves.
And I think that's the challenge there. What I find, a lot of people think like how they'll be viewed if I'm asking for help. People see me as I'm a failure, I can't handle this, I'm not coping.
Yes. Have you heard the phrase, stop shoulding on yourself? Yeah. I love that phrase because it is. We're like, well, I should be able to, right? I am a grown adult woman with a family and a business. I should be able to find my keys. I should be able to find my shoes. I should be able to get my kids to school on time, right? And those, having difficulty with those things that other people find so simple, or at least we think other people find simple, right? Because we're comparing ourselves, is really difficult. And we oftentimes get down on ourselves about those things without giving ourselves just as much, if not more, props for all the amazing things we do. I mean, look at these tables right here. All these innovative programs, right? All the talks that we're going to. All the amazing things that as ADHD people we can do in part because we have ADHD, right? But that's not where our brains go. They go to the stuff we struggle with and the stuff that other people tell us we're not doing well enough.
I was just about to point that out. Society makes you feel that way, doesn't it?
It's not just about our own. The internal monologue comes from someplace, right? And sometimes, yes, it does come from us, but a lot of times it comes from a lifetime of being told that. I mean, the research shows us that kids with ADHD get, what was it I was saying, Dr. Dodson's talk, he said, he quoted a stat that kids with ADHD get 20,000 more negative comments in school alone by the time they are 10. That's not even including what they get at home. Yeah, of course we're going to have some negative self-talk. So yeah, it makes sense that we go there and then again, that keeps us from asking for help, but then not asking for help makes it even harder for us to be as successful or satisfied or content or whatever words you want to use, right?
I think when people view ADHD, as you say, it's the consistency. The fact that you've done it before, why can you not do it this time?
Yes! Oh my goodness. Okay, so first of all, so glad you said that. When people talk about medication usage and like keeping up with your medicine, right, they use the term compliance. I hate that word. I want everyone to stop using that word because it makes it sound like we're doing it on purpose, right? Consistency. We struggle with consistency with our meds. We struggle with consistency in our routines. It comes back to the fact that ADHD, first of all, total wrong name for it. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a lack of attention.
That's another topic to discuss there.
That's a whole nother podcast. But it's an issue of regulation, right? I tell people we're not dimmer switch people, we're flip switch people. We're all or nothing, man. Emotions, energy, motivation, concentration, focus, emotional regulation, it's all or nothing, right? And so to that point, not only do we actually struggle with consistency, but it can also look like we are being inconsistent to other people because they expect us to be consistent with our behavior. Yeah. And we're not. And that is one of the things that I think is also a barrier to care for us because parents will come in, or even we ourselves will say, well, do I really need medication? Or do I really need coaching? Or do I really need whatever? Because, well, I could do it yesterday. Or I could do that task then. So I just need to try harder. Or my kid just needs to try harder. Or, well, they can focus on something if they like it. So they must not have ADHD. No! Yeah.
Going back to the term ADHD, as you say, like attention deficit. It's not deficit. We know that.
Yeah. It's not a deficit. It's not a deficit.
Now, what Ned Hallowell defined it as is the variability of that attention.
Exactly. It's not that we can't pay attention to anything. It's that we notice everything.
Exactly.
And so prioritizing where our focus should be and being able to maintain it in that one place can be difficult. But again, it's also the more we learn about it, the more we understand it's not a particular deficit of anything. It is an issue with self-regulation, right? And that is, and I think as someone with it, that's like it, when you understand that, it gives you so much insight into your own stuff. But then also when you're working with other people who have it or supporting other people who have it, understanding that is huge. And in my clinic, when I tell people that, it's one of my favorite things is just educating people on ADHD, because the looks on their faces and the looks on the parents' faces of like, oh, how did you know? Is like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
No, absolutely. I completely 100% agree with everything you said there.
Yeah.
So, for you, it's lived experience. You're describing and telling them from what it's coming from a place where you've been yourself.
Yep. Yes. And I do think that's something that's important in my practice, because sure, obviously medically managing their condition to the best of my ability, making sure they have resources and education are all very important. But again, we've all had all these negative messages as kids. Parents, whether they have ADHD or not themselves, have concerns and fears about their child or about their child being diagnosed with ADHD. So when a physician sits there and says to you, I have it too, and I got to my goal. I reached my dream, and on top of that, I have my own practice. It lets them know it's possible. No matter what else they've heard from other people, ADHD does not mean you can't do what you want to do. It just means you're going to have to figure out how to do it different.
Going back to what you're saying about self-esteem and negativity, that I think we all guilty of it. I think all the parents will tell you that. I think it's difficult to stop yourself and realize how negative we can be, particularly when we're working with kids and you're becoming frustrated yourself. And I'm
a mother.
Yeah.
I know. Am I proud of every single word that's come out of my mouth to my children? No, I'm not. And there are moments where I'm like, wow, my own emotional dysregulation or impulsivity comes into play, which I still need to work, like not excusing it. It's something we all have to continue working on ourselves, but having the insight that I have, I am able to then turn it around and say, okay, let's have a conversation about what just happened. I'm going to take responsibility for my behavior, and I'm going to take responsibility for when I didn't respond the way I should have responded, and what can we learn from this, right? And is it perfect? No. Am I hoping it's working? Yes. We don't know yet. They're not known yet. We'll see. Get back to me on that one. Fingers crossed.
All right. When is your talk?
My talk is this Saturday I think it's at 3 p.m.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah, come.
Yeah.
Please do.
We can catch up after.
Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. I can give you my feedback as well.
Yes, please do. Please do. I appreciate that.
And I look forward to seeing you at the party.
Yes. It will be so much fun.
And I can't wait to see what you're going to turn up to dressed as this time round.
Oh, I got a whole outfit this time. Yes.
Right, lastly, anyone wants to reach out to you, do you want to give us your details, contact details and stuff?
Absolutely. So my website is D.R.C. Carolyn, Carolyn, Parcells, Parcells.com. My socials are on Instagram and TikTok. I'm the.adhd.md. And Facebook, just search my name and it'll pop up.
Excellent, perfect. Nice to meet you, Caroline.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks so much.
No problems at all.
Thank you.
I'll give you a card of the podcast. You can listen now in a second.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Spread the word.
Yes, love it. Oh, very cool. I will absolutely do that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. See you around.
Have a good one.
Excellent. I've just spotted another podcast host, Brendan, who I am trying to see if I can get his attention. Whilst we're doing that, I'm going to have a quick word with... hello. Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Nice to meet you. I'm Archie. I'm doing a podcast called the ADHD Care podcast. Would you like to tell us a bit like what you're exhibiting?
Sure. I'm sharing information about the ADDA program, which is a school-based intervention for students that struggle with attention, organization, ADHD, and we train school staff in the school to deliver the program, and we have it's based on an evidence-based, already supported, effective intervention, but we're trying to make it better and more engaging, more motivating, so we're using technology to try to encourage students to actually practice those skills in between sessions of meeting with someone at school. So when an adult can't be in their ear during study hall or after school.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about it, because I'm quite fascinated about it.
Yeah. So it basically gives sort of immediate points and coins for engaging in organization behaviors, like completing organization checklists or adding a task to your planner. You get coins in the app for doing that, and then you can kind of see how much you're using the skills by viewing your progress over time, and they're earning rewards, and so there's a little bit of gamification in there, but it's really about trying to just make it celebrating the small wins over time and helping to motivate the behaviors in the moment.
What's the name of the app?
Atom, ATOM.
Excellent, and you can find it on, I was going to say on Spotify. You can find it on Apple App Store.
So it's not available in an app store yet. Our funding is through the NIH, through a grant that we're developing the program, but it is available at schools that are working with us and families that reach us. So if you can go to theatomprogram.com, you can reach out to us if you're interested in getting access to the program.
And is this just US based?
Not necessarily. We're working with folks in the Netherlands right now to see if we can start something in schools there. It's we're really kind of across a lot of different schools right now in the U.S. across the country. But yeah.
Is this going to come to the UK at some point?
Sure.
We'll look out for it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Nice to meet you.
You too. Take care.
Okay. Right. Hi, it's Archie back for the ADHD Care podcast, still at the ADHD conference in Baltimore in the US. I'm just standing at the Men's ADHD Support Group stand, and I've got a gentleman called Shane.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Nice to meet you, Shane. I'm Archie.
Nice to meet you, Archie. How you been liking the event?
The event's, really good, very informative. I'm loving the networking as well, and just, meeting people like you that we've never met before, so...
Yeah, I run the Men's ADHD Support Group. We're a national nonprofit. We develop a program for men with ADHD to have a safe place to kind of start finding a way to be who they are and being able to talk about the things that they need to talk about without the social pressure and the cultural pressures that a lot of us live under and grow up under. And so we developed a national nonprofit. We do weekly meetings, and we do a lot of work with our Men's ADHD Support Group on Facebook with a 16K member group.
Mm-hmm. And this is national, isn't just in the US or international?
We have members who are in Ireland. We have members who are in Mexico, Canada, Australia, Europe, Spain, all over the place.
So this is strictly adults, males with ADHD?
Yep. We want to focus on men with ADHD because all too often their voice isn't heard. Or if it is heard, it's taken into a way that is coming from a negative space because of like the masculine-dominated society that we live in. And so we need to still allow those voices to be heard without having to worry about being misunderstood. And we also need to have voices for men who deal with being raped or dealing with addiction or medication issues with sexual performance or ED or something like. They need a safe space to be able to talk about those kinds of things without feeling like people are going to judge me or criticize me or things of that nature.
How has this been received? Because I think definitely there is a need for it, clearly. I agree with you.
There's been a huge turnout. I'm actually literally right in the middle of making a t-shirt because people are like, where did y'all get your shirts from? And I'm like, let me go make the shirt. The most ADHD thing ever. I'm going in and creating a store and then launching a store in the middle of a conference. And we're raising money this way. Okay, let's go for it.
Multitasking, yeah, why not?
Multitasking. talking to you on a podcast, designing a T-shirt. I'm going to be doing another podcast later on this afternoon or this evening, probably drinking a little bit.
Exactly.
I told somebody, and this is just a funny story, they should have had Mountain Dew sponsor the event. And I was like, wait, actually, we would probably burn down Baltimore because it's just 1,000 people with Mountain Dew and ADHD. Probably not the greatest mix.
But yeah, seriously, on a serious note, I think you are doing amazing work, and I think certainly, that's something that's needed. I work with adults. I see a lot of males coming through the door as well. Some of them late diagnosis. Some of them it's hard for them to actually pluck up the courage to actually want to get assessed in the first place, and let alone then going through the diagnostic process and then the treatment and all of that. So having the space that they can actually open up and meet other like-minded individuals as them is definitely something that's definitely needed there.
Yeah, and the kind of work that y'all do, like that you do, is so valuable because men need to be encouraged to be able to open up and do those things. And sometimes, a single person making that declaration that it's okay, you should try it, is enough. But sometimes people need a support group of people like asking the question like, what does ADHD really look like? And then hearing, you mean it's not the hyperactive little white kid over in the corner running his head. My brain can just be going fast, which is like inattentive ADHD. And so I want to say thank you for being that person who reaches out and touches those people. Even one person is a value when it comes to getting people the support and help that they need.
I'm just about to ask you that in terms of the ones that haven't been assessed or diagnosed, wanting to find out more about ADHD, can they still access or come to your workshop? Sorry, to your group?
Men are allowed to come to the group, but anybody can go to our website at men'sadhdsupportgroup.org and really check out what those are. We also do public seminars and stuff like that. We have one actually coming up with Dr. William Dodson.
All right.
He's going to be doing a seminar for us in January, and it's a donation-only event, so people can come check it out at our website.
Excellent. And your Facebook group, it's a closed group?
It's a private group, men's only.
Right. Anyone, are you accepting new members at all?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
What is the group called again on Facebook?
Men's ADHD Support Group.
Men's ADHD Support Group on Facebook.
Yeah. You can I'm everywhere.
Really?
I took over all of social media with that handle, and so we've got it locked down.
Yeah, so you're on Twitter, on X, and Instagram, and all of that.
Everywhere. Yep, Twitter and everywhere.
Excellent, amazing. So I'm going to grab, I'm trying to see what else I can grab from you. There's a leaflet there I might take with me.
There you go. And
Excellent.
actually, if you scan that QR code, you'll actually get every one of our links and everything like that.
Amazing. Lastly, how would I be able to get the T-shirt you're designing?
Whenever I get it launched, you can actually go to the website. It'll be on the store, ready to go.
You haven't got one spare just laying around somewhere, have you?
What's that?
You haven't got any spare, like one T-shirt?
No. Like, my imposter syndrome kicked in and said, no, nobody's going to want one of these. All of a sudden, I walked in and Mark comes in and he's like, hey, I've got 17 people wanting one of the hoodies that you've got. And I'm like, I didn't plan on it. He's like, well, and I'm like, so I stay up until 1:30 in the morning making the store. So now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Did you work together?
Yeah. He's the vice president of the organization. I'm the operations director.
Amazing. And your name?
John Hazelwood.
Nice to meet you. I'm Archie. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
I'm just saying to Shane, you do amazing work just with raising awareness and supporting males, certainly with ADHD, just putting them together, meeting together on a regular basis and just discussing some of these issues that you find that they don't usually have those spaces to be able to meet and talk openly and freely about something like ADHD.
Yeah, what's unique about our group is that we founded each other based off of our need to feel a community where we felt supported, a sense of belonging, where you have something is known as ADHD, you have a mental health diagnosis, and all you know is a stigma behind mental health where it has this negative connotation behind it. Something's going on with you in life, something's wrong with you, but we have to start looking from the word something's wrong with you versus going to let's understand you. how you see the world. You're unique. Like, you're beautiful in design. There's literally no flaw in you. It's just a matter of how people want to sit down and take the time to really understand how you function. And so with having this group, you feel that sense of community, but also safety and vulnerability. And with that safety and vulnerability, it opens the door to really allow yourself to just grow and then accept exactly who you are. Amongst an entire group of men that are looking to do the same exact thing, and it's such a beautiful experience.
No, I truly admire your work, and I think it's definitely something that's needed out there, certainly. But even when you think about mental health in general, the stigma still around that in males, if you know. Individuals, we can talk about the numbers of individuals, males committing suicide, struggling in isolation, having nowhere, like an outlet where they can go and discuss about certain issues in terms of emotions, how they feel, embracing, understanding that I need some help, and talking. Certainly, as you know, like males, we don't usually open up about emotions. So just from the attention you've got from, since setting up the group, how's that been received just on a kind of public's point of view?
It's been phenomenal, especially the fact that we're multifaceted and multicultural. I know for me, it means a lot being a member of the Black community because we have our own different socio-economical and environmental struggles that we deal with every single day. As far as, like you mentioned, men talking about their emotions, putting words to emotions has been a hard thing for us to do because we grow up learning how to just suck it up, man up about it. You can't cry about this, you can't cry about that. But yet and still, I let all of that energy bottle up and I end up harming myself or harming someone else. I got tired of not having a support group or a group of people that look like me representing exactly what I'm going through to run to. Because I can't look at every, and this is no shade or anything towards like any other ethnic group, but the Black experience is just different. It hits different. And so you need that unique culture there, that understanding there, so you can feel as if you exist a part of the entire whole, like of everything in its entirety. And so for me, it means a lot seeing what we've been able to do because I can look at myself as a kid and be like, you know what, now someone who was like me, undiagnosed with ADHD, struggling at home, struggling in school, struggling even up until my career when I became older, they now don't have to worry about going through that alone because they have resources available. And it's a honor to just be able to offer something that's like that, in which, somebody has to start to do it. And if it's not there, you got to start it yourself.
So you set it up yourself?
It was me and the founder right here, Mark.
Good to see you.
Brother, best friend. And honestly, we had a love for music. We had a passion for mental health. And we found each other advocating ADHD one day back in 2019, did one podcast together. And then we were like, let's go ahead and make a group. And we started meeting on Sundays. And then next thing you know, we're up to 17,000 people.
Amazing. Excellent. I admire you. I'm going to check out your group. I'm going to spread the word as much as I can when I go back to the UK. Keep doing your good work, and I'm sure we'll connect at some point as well.
Likewise, thank you for this opportunity to just feature us. We really appreciate what you're doing. We appreciate what you're doing with your platform. This has to happen. It goes swept under the rug for far too long, and now since COVID, everything is coming to our face as far as mental health. We can't run from it anymore. So now it's time to improve the overall quality of our lives, not just externally, but also internally within our mental.
So you all have ADHD?
Yes.
Right. Including Shane?
Yep.
Right. Excellent.
Our ADHD is hell. Sorry to be frank, but yes, we are. And you know what? I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Exactly. And I suppose that I can see the passion in you that you're willing to help other people as well.
Because honestly, ADHD is not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence at all. Once you learn how to regulate it and how you function, people don't realize we're a jack of all trades. Like me, I'm into Legos, I'm into building cars, I'm into exercise, I'm into restoring sneakers. Like I love buying them fully beat up and bringing them back to life, customizing them. Like anytime we put our mind onto something that stimulates us, it drives our dopamine up. We become a fan of it and we want to become an expert. We just got to, caution ourselves that we don't burn ourselves out from it, because then there's a negative impact of it. But we know so much. we can't be slept on.
No.
We cannot be slept on at all.
Good to meet you, John.
Very good to meet you, Archie.
Lastly, do you want to tell us about that support group? What is it called again?
It is the ADHD Men's Support Group. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We're on Twitter, X, whatever you call it. We're on Discord. We meet on Zoom every Sunday. Multitude of topics. We have a newsletter that's coming out in which we have a sign-up sheet for that. We have our website, and we're also dropping merchandise as well, too, and a podcast.
And a podcast. What's the podcast called?
We have the ADHD Men Support Group podcast. It's on most platforms. I think it's Apple, Spotify, and some other places. Don't quote me on all of them, but we're definitely there. But we've had a lot of hits on it pretty well.
Oh, good. Keep up with the good work.
All right, thank
good
you.
to see you. All right. Hi, it's Archie. I'm still at the ADHD conference in Baltimore. Just about to have a quick word with another podcast host, Brandon. He's busy chatting to someone. I'm going to see if I can interrupt. I'm going to do it an ADHD style interruption. Hi, Brandon.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
I'm still waiting for you to host me on your podcast, by the way.
Yeah, I am a year behind. I had a really rough year, and so literally that's next when I get home is to start with last year and then work through this year's list.
So I'm gonna have to wait for another year.
No. You're on the list from last year, so probably a couple of months.
All right, let's introduce you properly. You are Brendan. Do you want to tell us your podcast name?
Yeah, so my name is Brendan Mahan. I'm the host of the ADHD Essentials podcast. At time of recording, 258 episodes. So a lot. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who created the Wall of Awful, if anyone's heard of that. So.
Yeah. And you've got ADHD yourself.
I do. Yeah.
How are you finding the conference?
Busy. I'm at the risk of sounding like a inflated ego. I'm at the tier where I come here and everybody wants to talk to me. So I don't get to go to panels. I was like, I'm going to go to panels this year, and it didn't happen. But it's important to talk to folks and meet people and connect to my fellow professionals so that we can increase the support for ADHD in the world. So,
no, excellent. Well, good to connect with you. Do you want to tell us a bit about your ADHD Essential podcast for people who want to listen to it?
Yeah, sure. So the show is aimed. It's kind of aimed at parents, but parents are adults, so it's aimed at adults. But some episodes are focused on adult challenges like career stuff or productivity or relationships, right? And there's also episodes, a decent number of them, that are aimed at how do I navigate having a kid with ADHD, a kid with neurodiverse challenges, and how do I more effectively parent? And because parenting is leadership, it's a leadership podcast too.
What inspired you to set it up?
I needed a platform, right, for one thing. And my background is in education. So I have a master's in education. I have a master's in counseling. And I'm really good with kids. So, and I had just become a parent when not really, but I was a parent of, I think the boys were like 8 or 9 when I started it. No, I'm lying. They were 5 or 6 probably. And so, that was the thing that I knew. Those were the challenges I was facing. That was stuff I was dealing with a lot, affecting my ADHD. And I also knew that from feedback from people that I was a uniquely skilled parent, especially for a dad. And I wanted to share those skills and that knowledge with the world and help kids get better parents.
One question I'll get asked a lot, I'm sure you do as well, and I think you gave a talk last year on that topic. How do you make a good podcast host?
A good podcast host?
Host, yeah.
All right, yeah. My workshop was on being a good podcast guest.
Oh, guest. Oh, I thought it was host.
No, that one was guest, but I'll do host. Okay. Hosting is different, right? If you're going to be a good podcast host, you need to be able to listen deeper to what's being said. You've got to be able to connect with your guest well, understand who they are. You got to do some background work. You have to find them. All that stuff is part of being a good host. And then when you're actually on air, you've got to be able to listen through to what they're saying. You've got to listen with sort of 3 ears, right? One ear is like normal conversation ear. Another ear is what's going on subtextually in this conversation, and is that something I can do something with? And the third, to my mind, the most important ear is what is my audience listening for, and what do they need and want out of this? And are we getting it? And if not, then I need to be able to change my questions and shift the conversation so that I'm giving the audience what they're expecting. And that's not always easy. And you also have to do that in a way that doesn't offend the person you're talking to, right? Like, I've got people who will come on my show and tell me a whole lot of information about a topic, but there's no stories. And so all of a sudden my job is to make sure there's stories. I have other people who are coming in and telling me stories, but there's no content. So my job is to pull the content out, right? Like, it depends on what the guest is doing, and you have to be able to shift and pivot based on the situation.
Do you kind of prepare the guest as well before they come on? Because some people haven't really done a podcast before, and people say to me, like, send me a list of questions you're going to ask me, and all, which is great. But when it actually comes to doing the podcast itself, to stay on the topic, you've got time. You obviously have to consciously worry about. You don't want them to veer off the topic that whatever you're discussing. Do you kind of do all these preparations with them beforehand?
It depends on who's coming on. So if it's an expert, like, you better know your stuff, But if it's an expert and we're going to talk about something specific, then okay, cool, let's make sure we know what that is. So I give my guests the option, right? Do you want me to come up with questions in advance? Is there specific stuff you want me to ask about, specific stuff you want to make sure we address? Or do you want to just wander and see where we go? Different guests have different preferences. If I'm interviewing an author, then I need to read that book and I have to know it. And I have to be able to ask good questions and have good, insightful thoughts about it. If it's just a person, just someone with ADHD who's coming on because I'm doing a man on the street kind of thing, then I need to make sure that they're comfortable and they know that they're being protected and they're safe, and that, like, we're not using your full name because ADHD still has a stigma. And so I'll use your first name. We might use an alias, but I don't want someone searching you up 5 years from now in a job interview and they see this ADHD podcast and decide not to hire you because that happened, right? Like, that's not my job. My job is not to blow people's lives up. And also, like, I have to make sure that they're comfortable. And that's usually my primary goal, is before we start the interview, I just tell them, this is how the interview is going to go. This is what it's like. My job is to help make sure you feel safe. I use the word host for both of its meanings, right? I'm the host of the show. I'm asking the questions. I'm doing that stuff. But it's easy to lose track of the idea of the host of like you're in my home and I'm the host of this dinner. And my job is to make you feel comfortable and safe and engaged and like you matter and like you're wanted here. And so I put a lot of effort into making sure that that's there as well. And some of that is talking in advance. Some of that is also telling them, look, I'm going to edit this. So if you say something you wish you didn't say, just stop and rephrase or whatever. If there's a lot of ums and ahs, I'm going to edit that out. Like, I'm going to make you look great later on when this interview is done. And that takes a lot of pressure off the guests too.
True, exactly. All of the things you said there, I completely 100% agree. What I was just going to say is to keep, because obviously when you're doing a podcast, consistency is key. Mm-hmm. You want to put out episodes regularly. Yep. So for you, I don't know how often you put out your podcast. Is it once a week, once a month? Sorry, once every other week?
My show posted once a week for a little more than 4 years. And then my kid started to struggle with his mental health. My son has obsessive compulsive disorder. I have two sons. They're identical twins. They're 14 years old. One of them has obsessive compulsive disorder. It got so bad he had to be hospitalized. It shut our family down. So you can tell when that happened, because all of a sudden in March of 2022, like, the show doesn't post anymore. Weekly for however many episodes, and then not over 200 episodes, and then not, right? And then there's a smattering of stuff here and there. Episode 250 of my show is actually my family and I sitting on our couch telling the story of Nate's OCD. So it's public, it's out there. And it was his idea to tell that story, not mine. I would not have done that if he didn't want it. I didn't ask, and I tried to say no, and he was like, no, I want to do it. So I was like, all right, kid, cool. And then my dad had some health issues after that, so it's still a little herky-jerky. And now I'm back to more weekly, regular posting. So yeah, the goal moving forward, I think I'm at 6 weekly episodes in a row now. The goal is to just keep that rolling into perpetuity.
I hope your son is doing okay.
Oh yeah, he's a million times better. Okay. He went to McLean Hospital in Massachusetts, which is where we live. It's like an hour away, so we still saw him pretty regularly. But he was in residential treatment there, and they gave me my kid back. They saved him. Like he's 100% better now. I couldn't be more proud of him. And his brother, who of course struggled a little bit once Nate was better, Gavin was kind of allowed to have his own trauma stuff happen that he was ignoring and trying to hide. And so he had some stuff. And then we got him through that too. I run online parent coaching groups and teach parents how to parent. So that's like, I'm good at that. So my skill set helped my kids navigate the challenges they were facing. And so did my network and my expertise in mental health and the people I know in mental health and that stuff.
That's very good. Yeah, that's reassuring to hear as well. Are you giving a talk at all at this conference?
I am, yeah. So I'm a little bit different this year than how I usually go. Usually I do a workshop on something. This year I'm doing a panel, an influencer panel. So it's going to be ADHD Jesse, Stacey Michelle, Farah Jamil, and Will Kerb will be on that. That's Saturday. And I'm also hosting some influencer Q&As in the Discovery Hall at lunchtime. That they're going to be filmed, so there'll be some recordings of them that'll go out at some point across people's various platforms, and also the conference will have the recordings. And that's going to be Friday at lunch, during the lunch block, so noon to 2. We start with Danny Donovan, and then...
Oh, is she here?
She will be here, yeah.
She will be.
And then after Danny Donovan, it's Cam and Asher from Translating ADHD. They're doing a 20-minute podcast episode. And then after that is Stacey Michelle, who runs ADHD is the New Black, the YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
And then on Saturday, it's 11:30 to 1:30, so it's a little bit of a time shift. And it's going to start with me, because my whole idea was I wanted to talk to my audience, and that's what this grew out of. So it's going to start with me. And then after I go, Alan Brown of ADHD Crusher will go, or ADD Crusher. And then following Alan Brown, Mark Almodovar from the Men's ADHD Support Group will wrap things up.
Jam-packed.
Yeah, it is.
Full on. As always.
I'm doing my best to try to get as many people seen and known as I can.
You're going to have to introduce me to some of these guests that you mentioned there, because I really, really wanted to talk to them, ADHD Jesse.
Sure, yep.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. So, good to talk to you, Brandon.
Yeah.
I'll let you go.
All right.
Excellent. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Archie.
All the best.
Archie.
I was going to say,
Jesse.
Hey.
This is ADHD.
Oh, hello.
Jesse.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. What's happening?
I put you on the spot there.
Yeah. To introduce you to him. So I literally walked right over after we were done interviewing.
Literally,
Recording a podcast episode. We don't need to totally jump on you, but
I'm not prepared.
That's all right.
Reference goes.
It's really, really easy to talk to. Honestly, it's going to be edited anyway.
All right.
Thanks, Brendan. Nice to meet you. You're obviously ADHD Jesse. Everyone knows you.
That's me.
We're getting all this attention. People taking pictures and videos.
Awesome.
How are you finding the conference?
It's great. Yeah, I'm having a really good time. There was a couple early sessions I wanted to get to, but I'm from the West Coast, and early mornings don't do well for me. But by the time I got here, the ones I went to have been really good. It's been fun.
So, for anyone that doesn't know about your work and your fantastic social media posts and things, do you want to tell us who ADHD Jesse is?
Yeah, I'm an author. I write lots of jokes about living with ADHD online. So tweets that kind of make fun of myself, and I think people relate a lot to that, because they kind of. I like to speak about the things that I used to keep hidden that I thought was just me, and then now by sharing on social media, other people can see that and be like, oh, that is me too, and feel. I get a lot of people that say, I feel both seen and attacked by the stuff that I post. It's kind of like, wow, that's really deeply personal that I thought was just me, but which I think is awesome, just sort of getting that out there and being able to talk about that openly with people, which is amazing.
And this is something that people were, no one was actually doing it on social media before you started. I can't remember, honestly, when I looked at, there's lots of people on social media that have ADHD, but the way that you do it, and I think I can see why that resonates with lots of people, because they can relate. And it's coming from a place of, listen, this is me. I'm just being like raw. I'm not holding my emotion
Yeah, totally. It was very much just kind of being raw and being open with it. And it was definitely like, especially kind of when I started, it very much was not happening online. There was like Jessica McCabe, Danny Donovan, they were starting to do some of it kind of around that time as well. But yeah, it totally, like the whole thing, the fact that I have, like people that follow me is weird, totally by accident, not at all planned.
Sure.
Just making jokes online, and then it happened to connect with people. And now I just finished writing a book, which came out, Extra Focus, which has been amazing. And I had no idea that was going to happen, but it's just been, because it's connected with people, and it feels amazing being part of that story for other people finding out about their ADHD or feeling more accepted or understood with having ADHD. Like that really inspired me to write the book and wanting to just like help people feel understood, feel like that connection, because like many people with ADHD, I grew up undiagnosed and I felt very alone, very misunderstood. So yeah.
So when were you actually diagnosed with ADHD yourself?
I was diagnosed about 7 years ago, and so my friend got diagnosed, and then his wife and my wife started talking, and my wife came back to me and she's like, so you might want to look into this ADHD thing, because a lot of things sounded familiar. And I was like, no, there's no way. I know what ADHD is, and I don't have that. And then I ended up talking with my friend, and he told me about hyperfocus. I was like, oh no, that sounds really familiar. Because initially I was like, I have no problem focusing on things that interest me, so I can't have ADHD. But then he was like, yeah, that's hyperfocus, and that's an ADHD thing. So I was able to, I started reading stories like on Reddit and whatever, and it was like, oh man, this explains like why I've been late to everything my whole life, no matter what I do. And like things like my issues with memory, where it was like, am I having Alzheimer's or something? Because I would just forget really important details and stuff like that. And it's just like I kept finding out more and more things. Everything I read was like, oh, that part of my life is explained too. All these things that I used to think were like family quirks, because it turns out my brother and my dad also have ADHD. So I thought there was family quirks. It's like, oh no, we just all have ADHD. So yeah.
So what inspired you to kind of start your kind of social media page? As you say, you probably just thought, I'm just going to post how I'm feeling, if not really expecting it to get the reaction that you got. I'm sure. Was that the case?
Yeah, totally. I signed up for this like writing challenge called Chip 30 for 30, where you're writing like mini essays every day for 30 days. And I signed up for that. I don't know why I signed. It was like a random like challenge. I was like, that sounds fun, I guess. And then I immediately was like, oh, I really want to talk about these things I've learned about ADHD, because it was life-changing for me. And so I kind of wanted, like, learning about rejection-sensitive dysphoria, just the way motivation works totally different and all that. So I just started writing and sharing, and that's kind of how it got started. And it was like resonating with people. And then I just kind of kept, leaning into it. It's like, oh, this is really connecting with people. Let me lean into it and see how I can continue to help. And I think I've learned, I don't know, I feel weird saying, I think I've learned that I do a good job of like translating things, because I read like some of the more technical stuff, but like I know a lot of people with ADHD is like they don't want to read any of that sort of stuff, which I totally get. So I think I do a good job of kind of making it more relatable, more acceptable and easy for people to read and understand, and sort of like simplifying it. And that's a lot of, again, like with the book, is very much like I know a lot of people with ADHD struggle to read. I'm the same way. Like I'll get, if you have like a book and like there's one paragraph that fills the whole page, I'll be stuck on that page for like half an hour just like repeating. And so very much like, how can I make a book that people want to read? And like, so adding illustrations, small paragraphs, space between, like all that sort of stuff to really kind of make it ADHD acceptable, and like so people actually finish and read the whole book and are able to learn from it. So,
what's the name of the book again?
Yeah, Extra Focus: The Quick Start Guide to Adult ADHD.
And do you want to give us a quick gist about what it's all about, what to expect in that?
What? Sorry,
in the book. So, what's the book focused on? What are you covering in that?
Yeah, so it's basically like the subtitle, Quick Start Guide to Adult ADHD. It's kind of that. All the stuff that I kept learning, I'm like, oh, that's ADHD too. And like the, time blindness, the difficulties with memory, the emotional dysregulation. And then really specifically, I talk a lot about motivation and how the ADHD brain works totally different for getting motivation. And I actually have like a strategy guide with that. So I say, this is kind of how motivation works with ADHD. And here's a whole bunch of strategies for how our brain works differently and like how to actually approach stuff. Because I spent so much time reading like getting things done and other like productivity advice, and I'm like, none of this works for me. What the heck's the problem? And I talk a lot about that in this book. So it's a really great like first start resource. You're like, see some of my posts online or some other memes, you're like, wow, these are really sounding a little too familiar. This is like a great starting place to like, oh, okay, now I'm going to learn all those kind of, basically it's like, this is the guide I wish my doctor had given me when I first told him that I thought I had ADHD.
Is it out? People can purchase it?
Yeah, so you can, I have a website, extrafocusbook.com, or you can go, it's on Amazon, it's on any bookstore, you can ask for it there. So yeah.
How long did it take you to write the book?
It took a little over 2 years, and that was with some big pauses in the middle where I was like really excited, motivated writing, and then you hit a point and I'm like, oh no, I forgot about the book for 3 months, and so I had to motivate myself to get back to it. But yeah, it took a couple of years to get that done.
Sometimes it's helpful rather than just trying to rush it and publish it without really like just because you want to put it out.
Yeah, and I definitely had. For me, urgency is really motivating, which I talk about in the book. And so I had to like invent, because I self-published, I had to invent, like I didn't have a publisher banging on the door saying, hey, you need to finish this. So I had to do that for myself. So I hired an editor that gave me deadlines, and I did like beta reading. And basically I announced like, hey, I'm going to do beta reading in 3 weeks. A bunch of people signed up, and I was like, oh no, my book is not ready for anyone to see it, so now I have 3 weeks to like rush and kind of finish it. I mean, that's the only way I got anything done in high school. Like the night before, that's when I worked on that big paper. Yep. So exactly, yeah.
The whole last minute living things right to the
yes. Yeah, exactly.
Totally. The adrenaline pumping and everything.
Right, yeah, totally.
Are you giving a talk at all at this conference?
Yeah, so I'm on a panel, the social media influencer panel on Saturday, and so I'm really excited for that. That's going to be fun.
And that's with Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon Mahan is like emceeing or facilitating that, and I don't recall the name of the other people that are on it, but it's gonna be really fun.
Is Danny Donovan? No, she's not.
Yeah.
She will be coming to the conference, I hear.
Yeah, I know she's here somewhere. I haven't seen her, but I know she's here. I'm not sure. I think she's on a panel too. Yeah, I don't know when it is, but I know I'm going to have to go see that for sure. Danny's awesome.
Okay, you told us your website, and what's your social media handles?
Yeah, just ADHD Jesse, so ADHD JESSE, and that's kind of all the place. Instagram, Threads, Twitter while it's still around, and all the places ADHD Jesse.
Are you on TikTok as well?
Technically, but I haven't actually posted in there like in a year. So don't. I have old stuff on TikTok. So
okay.
Primarily, I would say Instagram and Threads is where I'm most active.
That's pretty much what we knew and fell in love with. To be fair.
Yeah, totally.
So even in the UK, people know you, so you can see like people were excited that you were coming here today as well.
Yeah, that's always kind of fun. It's weird because normally I'm just like hiding behind the phone or the computer screen or whatever, and then seeing people that actually know how, I'm like, this is weird. But it's cool. It's very cool to like get to connect with people that you have like this like understanding. Like this whole conference is so amazing because it's just like, oh, people get it. Like I feel like the mask can come off and I can just be fully myself and everyone totally gets it and we're all kind of on the same page, and yeah, it's amazing.
Excellent. Nice to talk to you, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Hi there, it's Archie. I'm still at the ADHD conference. I've just bumped into an old podcast guest that featured on our podcast a while ago, Rosie Collins.
Hello, very nice.
Hello, good to see you again, Rosie.
How's it going?
I see you got your kit. So Rosie's from the Fred company.
Yes, we're here with some new headsets. We've got the Quest 3, which is exciting because lots of people haven't tried that yet.
Quest 3, tell me more about Quest 3.
The Quest 3 is smaller, it has better tracking, there's this little dinky thing here, so you can see it's like quite a lot smaller than the other one, and it just works really nicely. There's some extra features like mixed reality that you can do, so particularly for potentially kind of clinical work or things you might want to do with kids particularly, or maybe more vulnerable people who are not comfortable with full immersion. You can kind of mix it, so you can kind of see the real world in full colour, but also then you're adding a layer of Beat Saber or one of those games. I'm not sure whether Beat Saber's got mixed reality actually, but there's quite a few of them that do have. So you'll kind of see the game, but kind of overlaid over the real world. So it's a bit less immersive, in the sense of like being completely lost in a game. but it's kind of more comfortable for some people.
You still have the option to make it immersive.
Yeah, so you can basically toggle between the two. So you can go fully immersive if you want, and you block out the entire real world, or you can have this kind of mixed reality. And for certain apps, that's more enjoyable, and especially like multiplayer. You could have a couple of you in headsets. You can still see the other person and see them moving around, but you're interacting with a kind of shared 3D object or game or what have you.
Yeah. Because obviously I've got the VR2, which is this one here. Because I know exactly what you mean. So for anyone that obviously didn't catch the last podcast when we spoke about what VR is and how that all fits in with ADHD, do you want to kind of break it down for us?
I'll try. I've been talking a lot for the last 3 hours. Broadly, what we find with it is it's a brilliant engagement tool, for a lot of people who maybe struggle to talk about things that they're struggling with, particularly when we work with young people in schools and what have you. We're talking a lot about emotional regulation. And our whole approach is that for well-being stuff to work, you've got to want to do it and enjoy it, because you might try mindfulness or meditation or something a handful of times, but if you don't really click with it, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it regularly, which is what you need. So our focus is generally using kind of these new tech, that's really well made, works really well, using games that people have put a lot of money into designing, something that people will pay money for, that they'll play over and over again. People are then more likely to use that. So our focus is actually, we generally avoid stuff that is more formally clinical or well-being related. And we find by doing that people actually engage with it much better, and they're much more likely to regularly use it. And then you can start conversations around well-being and emotional regulation in a way that you just probably wouldn't get otherwise with some of the kids that we work with.
And certainly, if you give us an example, because obviously me and you have spoken a few times when you've used it with young people and you've gone into schools and things. So do you want to give us a few case studies, also without naming the young people's names, young people with different presentations and how VR was able to be used with those young people? Sure.
So we work quite a lot with neurodivergent young people, particularly ADHD and autism. We've seen... There's one young boy that we work with who's autistic and kind of very stereotypical, what you would think of as autism, like poor eye contact. I don't want to say poor eye contact. Doesn't enjoy making eye contact. Doesn't speak very much. Seems very kind of separates himself from other people, and particularly us as new people coming in. And then we put him in the VR headset, and he was literally swearing and was suddenly incredibly verbal and articulate, and I was just like, oh, you absolutely can speak as well as anyone else, but you just choose not to. And when he was in the headset, though, there's something sparked, and he was just chatty, telling us what he was seeing. It really kind of brought him out of himself. And you find that then carries over into your relationship with them outside of the VR. So he's kind of a particular case. There's another young boy that we worked with, a teenager, who's probably about 15, who again presented with quite stereotypical ADHD kind of symptoms, physically very hyperactive, very impulsive, he just couldn't help himself, pushing his friends in class, just all kind of very boisterous teenage kind of behaviour. And we found within a few weeks of doing our kind of weekly sessions with that class, he quite got the hang of what we were trying to get at, which was learning what type of activities actually help you to regulate your emotions. And so we would find that he'd come in for the first half of the session and sort of ask for really high energy stuff, so maybe Beat Saber or boxing or one of those kind of physical activities. And they wouldn't have a break, and then he'd come back after that and say, actually now I'm kind of ready to do, say, nature. And he would lie down and pretty much fall asleep under a desk. And the teachers would kind of come in and go, swearing again, being what are you talking about? This kid is never quiet. And so he had been able to kind of work through trying all these different things out, seeing what he actually enjoyed, and the things that actually helped him to kind of feel the way he wanted to feel, rather than being told by a teacher, you just need to be a certain way, without actually having the right support to kind of get there. And so what we found with that particularly is we're starting to really realise that VR could be a really helpful bridge between emotions, because I think a lot of the time people are expecting someone to go from super high energy anger or something that is, on the more unwanted side of the emotional scale and high energy to suddenly being the complete opposite end, that's calm, low energy, happy mood, which is a huge ask for anybody, let alone an ADHD teenager. And so, in terms of the biology and your neurotransmitters and everything, you're much closer from anger to excitement. Like, they're actually very, very similar. So going there first by doing boxing or a kind of a fun, high-energy game is then the bridge that then from there you're much more likely to be able to kind of come down in energy or, what have you. So that's become quite a key part of it, is kind of seeing how you can use VR, not necessarily immediately to move from this emotion to that emotion, but to help you kind of on the right journey, which can still be very quick, but it's just not expecting someone to transition instantly, from these two extremes.
I interviewed a fitness coach a couple of weeks ago on this podcast, actually, and we were discussing that point that you said there, in terms of the PE, physical education sessions, how, particularly for neurodiverse young people, where they'll come from being a high extreme energy activity to being expected to sit in the class without anything kind of in between to regulate the lower the arousal that they would have had from whatever activity they were doing before. So,
absolutely. And it's what you see, like, I'm not a teacher, and we do these sessions once a week, and it blows my mind, and I don't know how people do it full time. There's absolutely not a criticism of teachers, because I know they've got a lot to deal with. But when you do come in and see this, and you're like, these kids are getting in trouble for something where the environment is not right for them. Like, they aren't being supported in the right way to do those transitions, to do that kind of stuff. They're not being given the time. They're being told to act in a way that just isn't natural to them, And so, it's on the adults, it's on the professionals who know this stuff, or should know it, to help them to do that right, and not to get them in trouble for something where you're like, well, they aren't able to do that, and it's wrong for them to be punished.
No, 100% agree. I can see it. There's a talk, isn't there? I can see it. Everyone is going into the keynote speaking session now, and do you know? Are you around for long?
I'm here the whole time. Yes.
Right, I'm going to come and have a go at that at the VR3 because good to catch up. All right, take care.